Yeah, that's right. I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Hello, Knick family. Welcome to Lunchtime Live, the Knicks recap and reaction show. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen, joined by Geoff from the Happily Ever Klafter daily sports blog, as well as resident panelists on the weekly show. The Knicks got an ugly one, but they got it. And Geoff and I are here to break it all down. A lot to talk about, so to speak. I do wonder if the fan base is a little down on this team just from not winning on the road. And then when we do get a win, we're struggling against Dallas. It comes down to an official who, could have just not, could have not called an offensive, may not have called an offensive foul. It kind of came down to that. But just briefly, your overall impressions of the game, and then I'll get into your impressions of the team so far.
So I think you can look at this in one of two ways, and both are completely 100% valid. You can look at it this way and say this was a Dallas team that was missing half of their opening night roster, and we should have blown them out by 30 points, and we didn't. So that is an indictment of the team, and you're perfectly accurate in that assessment. You can also say that the Knicks played really, really poorly, and we're still able to find a way to win on the road, which is the mark of a good team. And so I think how you choose, like if you want to be negative on the team this morning, you're within your rights to do that, and you're not wrong. If you want to be positive about this team this morning, you're within your rights, and I can talk about some things where I'll say that you're not wrong. And so, it was frustrating for sure. The early on, we got out to the 5-0 lead, and then we took a nap for the last 10 minutes of the first quarter, which was very frustrating. 3 for 21 in the first half from 3-point territory is atrocious. And the foul shooting was mind-numbingly aggravating to me. So there's a lot to clean up. If you make your foul shots, you win that game comfortably, even despite everything else. But we didn't, and we actually, I think you can make the argument that we didn't win the game as much as Dallas lost it. Right? We fumbled it, but they didn't recover it. And so, the last minute of the game after Shamet hit those 2 threes was some of the most maddening, outrageous stupidity I think I've ever seen. We missed 5 out of 6 free throws, and we basically handed them a layup to tie the game, and we were very fortunate that he did that Karl Anthony Towns try and swim move with the off arm, which is a foul that Towns gets called for quite a bit. So it's not like they created a phantom call, but we're very lucky that's how that shook out.
Especially to close the game. Sometimes the officials,
sometimes they'll call it the other way.
And sometimes they want the players to decide they'll say no, but a lot of times they want the players to decide the game. And to your point, when you shoot the way the Knicks did and you miss as many free throws as the Knicks miss, you're going to get an ugly win if you get one. If you get one at all. The Knicks shot 44% from the field, 28% from the 3-point line, and 54% from the free throw line, which is unconscionable for, I think, any NBA team, but particularly the Knicks, who have pretty good free throw shooters. And to your point, missed 5 out of the last 6. You could say they escaped this game, to your point. They escaped.
That's the right word. That's the absolute right word.
With a win. But I will say this, though, how you pointed it out in the beginning, your view on the game, I just feel like get a win any way you can. And I'm not down on the Knicks. They didn't shoot well. They didn't play well. They didn't defend well. The Knicks are 20. They didn't defend the 3-point period, but the 3-point line particularly. And you know what? I just think this is going to be the Knicks into impetu. Is that the word? Impetu? What's the word? Impetu, like forever. Like this is going to be the Knicks. Like
In perpetuity, I think is the.
yeah, we're not going to defend the 3-point line. The Knicks give up 39 3-point attempts per game, 25th in the league. Teams hit 15.4 against the Knicks, 29th in the league. And teams are shooting 39.1%, 28th in the league. If I'm not mistaken, somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the replay game as well. I think they only either shoot 10 threes a game or make 10 threes a game, something of that sort. But they were well above that last night. And I think teams know coming in, you're going to be able to get 3-point shot attempts against the Knicks. And if you're having a pretty good night, it's going to help you because they're going to give you those shots. And Mike Brown said, he's prioritizing the paint, and that's fine. I don't know if it has to be this bad when you're prioritizing the paint. Like, right, there are other teams who are prioritizing the paint as well, and whose 3-point defense is not as bad as the Knicks is, at least early on. Let's move to some of the players. Brunson returned after 2 games off and looked like he didn't miss a beat. 28 points, 5 assists. He shot 11 for 23 from the field. Only took 1 3-pointer, only took 2 free throws. But overall, I don't know if I want to say vintage because he would have went to the line more and took more threes. But overall, I thought he looked good in his return. What did you see?
I'm a little less high on Brunson's performance actually than I don't know. I thought the offense was kind of, I mean, he did a good job. I'm not gonna criticize.
No, it's fine, Jeff. If you whatever.
But I just feel like every time we play Dallas, it's like he comes out with something to prove. I'm gonna show my old team instead of just playing within the flow of the offense. And he's very capable, but I mean, 28 points on 23 shots isn't like set the world on fire. You know what I mean? And I don't know that he was really setting up his teammates much in that time. And so I'm not sure that his process, I guess, was really the best that I've seen. And I think he tends to do that against the Mavericks. He gets this tunnel vision where he's like, I'm going to score. I want to show them you didn't re-sign me. And maybe I'm completely wrong about that, but it just has that feel to it every time we come to Dallas. And it always seems like we have weird stuff happen. Just like last night, we were fortunate to come out on the positive side, but I didn't think it was one of Brunson's better performances of the year, despite the counting stats looking very good.
Yeah, I didn't get that feel. He was probably only one of a few Knick players, at least the starters, and plus those with a positive plus minus for those who like that stat. He was plus 13. But I hear you. I think that's why we watch the games, right? Everybody just gets a different, a different feel for the game and for how the team plays. For me, I think I was probably more focused on his agility. Is he hobbled? Is he 75%? Maybe I was more focused on that and on his movement to really focus on on his process. But yeah. I thought he was okay. I thought he was okay last night.
Yeah, he wasn't terrible by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't, I just don't think it was a vintage game by any stretch of the imagination, or even one of his better games. Like I think I've seen him play a lot better, just personally. And it wasn't bad. He was still good, but I mean, I just, I think he especially against a team like Dallas, I think he needs to orchestrate more. And I didn't really see
But when
that.
you say a team like Dallas, I mean, well, they are coming into the game, I think, number 5 in defensive rating. But they just, I don't know, Cooper Flagg wasn't there. It's like this team was just a shell of themselves.
Decimated.
Yeah, decimated. Basically, by injuries. Okay, I mean, I think that's fine. Where do you want to go? We got to go to Cat. To me, and maybe I'm minimizing this and I'm understating this, and correct me if you feel differently, the chat, the replay game. I just think he's struggling from the field. That's it. Like, I'm not all up in arms about, Karl Anthony Towns. 18 points last night, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, did turn the ball over 3 times, only shot 37.5% from the field, took 16 shots, and maybe could have had a few more, 16.7%, only 1 of 6, I should say, from 3, 5 of 9 from the free throw line, which is not like him. But you're going to have games like this. I say this, I feel like I'm a broken record. I already know who Cat is. You know what I mean? So I don't get too high or too low with him. I just feel like he's struggling from the field, but he's engaged. Like, he is engaged. I think he's taking his shots, right? And he's missing. 6 assists last night, which means he was looking for others and they were also, making shots. So okay, yeah. So chat, let me know what you I hear you, JJ. You call it heat checks. That's for you a heat check, but for Cat, that's his shot. It's not a heat check. His shot is, he probably feels like he has unlimited range. So when you see him pull up 2 feet from the 3-point line, like, oh my God, what kind of shot? It's like, you're not even shooting well. Why would you take that shot? To him, that's my range. That's not a heat check. That's my range, So, but
it would be one thing if he was just shooting poorly from beyond the arc, but his numbers inside the arc are down almost as much. Mm-hmm. His effective field goal percentage is like 487 or something like that, which is by far the worst of his career. And so I was looking at this because I'm like, what's wrong with Cat? Is there something wrong with Cat? And he's taking, I think, 1 fewer field goal attempt than he had last year, but he's making 2 fewer field goal attempts than he was last year. So,
but what is it though? Like, is it that is this just a slump that he's in, or do you feel like he's injured? Do you feel like to me, I just feel like he's missing shots right now. It's going to all, even out. Like, do you feel like he's taking different shots, or he's not taking his shots?
I think he's taking his shots. I think he's taking the same volume of shots that he had last year, basically. So I'm wondering if maybe that quad injury is affecting his shot. I don't know his shot mechanics well enough to be able to say, you know what I mean? Maybe he's not being able to get the same spring and bounce because of that, because he's been dealing with that. We haven't talked about that much, but he's been dealing with that since, since the season started, really. And so, I'm hoping that's it. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that a 50, 40, 85 guy is suddenly going to, forget how to shoot. So I don't think that's it. And his free throw shooting is still there. So that part of the puzzle is fine. It's just, he's not like, he has 1 game in the last 5 where he shot 50% from the field. And that was his 13 for 26 against Miami. And other than that, he's been, he's been really low percentage on pretty much all of his shots, not just his 3-point. In fact, I think his 3-point percentage is almost as good as his 2-point percentage. I think it's like 31 and 32 or something like that. They're both really bad, but I think I'm confusing him with Yabusele there, but with the 31 and 32. But what my point is, he's not making a lot of shots from either space, and you have to think, that it's got to be something. Either the injury is bothering him, or he's in his own feelings about the rumors with the Giannis trade. I don't know what it is, but he certainly doesn't look like the same player that he did last year. But he's engaged. You can tell he's engaged because his rebounding numbers are right there. Like he hasn't diminished in his rebounds at all, and his playmaking has been a little better too. He's averaging more assists. So maybe it's just a question of he's not hitting shots. But the good news is he hasn't been hitting shots, and we're still 9-5. So, if that progresses to the mean, and you kind of have to expect that it will, the Knicks are going to be that much better when he turns it around.
Yeah. I think I'm in the he's just missing shots. Maybe there's some things schematically that could be done, but I don't know. I think his looks are good. I think the shots he's taken are shots he usually takes. He's aggressive driving to the rim, and when he gets in there, he does look to throw it down. I don't know. Well, I'll put it this way. It's going to take a bit more for me to become concerned about Karl-Anthony Towns. It's going to take a bit more for me. Shout out to Lee Escobedo from the Nick of Time show. He said he spoke on that show last night that he feels it's about usage and positioning. Mike Brown used him properly in the first half. He was stationary at the elbow, initiating with both feet planted. I mean, there could be some scheme stuff too, but listen, Cat's been in the league for, regardless of the schemes, the shots he's like if you told me he's taking shots further from the basket, he's not driving anymore, like I would say, okay, I kind of get it. And I get that there may be changes in schemes and he's not being used, maybe the way he's used to being used, but the shots he's getting are all makeable shots. Would you agree, Geoff?
Yeah,
like he's not like
I agree with that 100%. The shot diet that he's getting is not one that's foreign to him or one that he shouldn't be efficient in. Like it's the same diet of shots that he's always gotten. In my opinion, I haven't seen any difference in the shot diet as opposed from one year to the next. I mean, yes, he's he may be in a different role, but he's shooting pretty much the same number of shots that he was. And yeah, he made a lot of those yes, no 3-pointers last year. I remember like those logo shots always drive me nuts, no matter who takes them. But including in the playoffs last year, I think against Detroit, he made a massive one. And so, that's part of his game. And that's something that he does. But I will say this, I think that this season is kind of showing that it's not always just about increasing your volume from the perimeter, right? Sometimes when you increase your volume from the perimeter, the percentage doesn't necessarily go with it. And maybe the reason that he was shooting 40% from three was because of the types of threes that he was taking, and he was taking fewer of them. I think he's taking more than a full, I think maybe even almost as many as 2 more threes a game this year. And maybe that's not the shot that necessarily, the percentage isn't just automatically go with the increase in the volume. And so maybe it's not just, he shoots 40%, get up 10 a game. Well, maybe when he gets up 10 a game, he's only a 35% shooter instead of a 40% shooter. Maybe it's because he was shooting 4, but he was shooting the right 4 that he was able to make them from the 40% mark.
That's fair. I mean, that's common. That's common with more shots. Some plays efficiency improve. Sometimes it doesn't. With more shots. So that's why volume is important. How many attempts he's taken this year?
Give me a second. I
No,
have
that's
that
fine.
number right here. I think it's almost 6.
Okay. All right.
Let me see. Yeah, it's 5.9, up from 4.7 a year ago.
So, but it's one more 4.7, 5.9, like a shot.
And he's making fewer of them. He's making 1.9. He was making 2 out of 4 points last year. So he's taking more, but he's making less.
Right, but it's one shot more though. Right? 4.7 to
I don't know
5.9.
which one.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I mean, it's one. Anyway,
Mhm.
let me know in the chat if
Yeah,
you're
that's one
concerned
shot.
about Cat's performance. Do you feel like it's just, he's just in a slump right now, or do you feel like there's something Mike Brown needs to do to kind of get him better shots? Or to JJ's point, what will help is to take your threes a little closer, a little closer to the 3-point line, particularly when you are not, shooting well. Yeah, let me know. Down on Cat, not down on Cat. Replay gang as well. Let me know. Let me know where you at with Cat. Let's talk about
For the
Deuce.
record, I'm in the not down on Cat camp, by the way. I'm just trying to explain what's out there. I'm not down on Towns at all. In fact, I think that he is going to, bounce back. And I actually think at some point he's going to go on a heater where he just, you know what I mean? He's going to have like a 3-week stretch where it's like he can't miss. And then everyone's going to say, oh, he's the MVP and this and that, and forget all of the, at least that's what I'm hoping happens. I don't have any proof of that. But.
Yeah. I'll get to the super chats and the other comments in a few. Let's talk about Shamit and Deuce. So Brunson was back. Shamit started. Deuce came off the bench. Deuce was cold early, but he hit 2 or 3 huge shots for us in the fourth quarter. Shamit seemed to me like he decided he just wasn't going to shoot, or I should say the ball just didn't come his way. It's not like he was passing up shots. The ball just didn't really come his way. And when he did, he wasn't like wide open like he was in the fourth quarter. And that could have been because we just weren't doing a great job of getting in the paint, drawing the defense, and kicking it out to get him those open shots. But he also had 2 huge 3-pointers in the fourth quarter. Talk to me about our shooting guards. Like, those are our shooting guards. They both drive me nuts. With these feast or famine games.
Feast or famine quarters. It's not even like Deuce was 1 for 6 in the first half, and then he decided, oh, I guess I better make a shot or 2 in the fourth quarter, And Landry makes the 2 big threes that get us the lead, and then he goes to the free throw line, and he's Ray Charles, And I'm just like, yeah. So I agree with you. McBride and Shamit are going to send me to an early grave, man. They run me crazy with their inconsistency. But I loved Shamit's defense last night. I really thought that in the fourth quarter, he was a pest. He was swarming and attacking and aggravating. And I really understand why Mike Brown likes him. And I think that Shamit is earning his minutes. And he kind of has that DiVincenzo swagger about him when it comes to big time shots. You know what I mean? Like in that fourth quarter, he just kind of knew those. You know what I mean? You just kind of had a feeling those were the shots that were going in, even though I think he didn't shoot much, but I think he was 1 for 4 from the field prior to that. But he, when we needed him the most, he put them in. And we don't win the game without those 2 threes. They were very timely. But before that, Deuce hit a couple of timely triples that I thought, kept us within striking distance, because there were a couple of times in that fourth quarter where I thought that we might be letting go of the rope. You know what I mean? It was a 106, 101 or something like that. And I was like, ooh, this is starting to feel like it may be getting away from us. And we made just enough plays to win, and we would turn. So I think we shot 21 threes in each half, and we made 3 in the first half and 9 in the second half, and felt like all of those were a result of our 2 shooting guards. I know it wasn't, but it just felt like all the makes were from those 2 guys. But
yeah, I love the play when Shamet had the ball on the right side of the court, and I thought he was going to pull up for the 3, but he found Brunson, and then Brunson drove in the lane and then hit Shaman on the left for the 3. That was like a massive relocation. from like, not just 2 steps to the left, 2 steps to the right, from one side of the court all the way to the other side of the court. And Brunson found them, and and he knocked him down. Like, his relocation game is on point for sure.
That's a massive point. And that's one thing that Mike Brown has really praised him for, is his ability to cut and move without the ball. He kind of says that Shamet does that better than anybody else on the team. And so, when you're trying to carve out a niche, when you're fighting with other really good guards in Clarkson and McBride for minutes, you got to make yourself stand out in little ways. But I kind of think that this is what the Knicks envisioned from Shamet last year, and then he hurt his shoulder right before camp, and he wasn't really 100% again, in my opinion, until the postseason. And you saw in the postseason him start to look like the player that we envisioned. And then now this year he's had a full off season. He won the job in training camp. He won his roster spot, and not only won his roster spot, but won playing time. Right? You would figure
and
the guy
who's starting.
Yeah,
if there's an injury, he's the first one in the starting lineup.
But he's earned that, in my opinion. I think his play is commensurate with that. I think that he's doing a good job when he's on the court. Yeah, I mean, I know his plus minus last night wasn't great, but
but few were. Well,
Brunson was good.
That's true. Mitchell, Landry, and McBride, and it's funny because McBride and Shamet hit some huge shots for us in the fourth quarter.
I think that goes back to your point about you always say box plus minus is
not a big
perfect stat, and you got to watch the flow of the game and what actually happens, because it is dependent upon the players that you're on the court with. You could be playing lights out, and you playing with the Three Stooges, and all of a sudden they go on a run, and so. I think it's a useful stat, but I don't think it's a be all end all stat, so we do have to be careful with it.
Yeah. For sure. I want to talk about Yabu, but before we get to Yabu, let's talk about Hart. I mean, Hart is just Hart things. I kind of feel like the way we're talking about Cat now is how we were I think we were talking worse about Hart to start the season. But he's coming, he's coming around. He still makes some boneheaded turnovers, but this is Hart, where the positives, outweigh the negatives. Last night, 16 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. He hit a big 3-pointer in that fourth quarter as well. And I think his ability to handle the ball, bring the ball up the court, be that secondary playmaker really helps this team. Go. And Mike Brown talked about it as well. If you ask Josh Hart, he's still finding his way. He's not playing as many minutes as he used to play. He got more minutes last night, probably because of OG. OG was out. But what did you see from Josh Hart last night?
Well, there was one play that I was super frustrated with him, and it was in the fourth quarter, and he got by his man and he dribbled into the paint, and it didn't look like there was anybody within a mile of him. I'm like, just shoot that, because I think it was a one-point game.
Said that, right?
Yeah, I was like, shoot that, and then he passes it back out to the three-point line, and we missed, and I was like, what are you doing? That's an easy shot. Like, you're in the key, just put it up. But, and then he had the same exact situation happen I don't know, a few possessions later, he did the same thing, and we made the three, and there you go. So, Josh Hart is playing like Josh Hart. Like he's equally frustrating as Deuce and Shamet with his inconsistency, but I they don't win that game without him last night. I know that. I mean, he does a lot of the little things well. He's a terrific rebounder.
Got a key offensive rebound for us on one of those possessions late in the game that we needed.
And he does that a lot, right? He does that. It's like it seems like you say that every other game. Well, Josh Hart got that big offensive rebound for us because he does that a lot. And sometimes he's our point guard, believe it or not, right? It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but he does play make at a decent level. His turnovers are often mind-boggling and way too high in terms of volume. But Josh Hart is a good basketball player, and I think he's in the right role, and I think that's why he's thriving. He's coming off the bench, he's doing some good things, and then he closes a lot, which is
he closes a lot.
Because he gets starters minutes, whether he starts or he plays off the bench, because it's tough for coaches to take a guy like that out of the game. The guy who makes 50-50 balls, 80-20 balls is a guy that you want out on the floor because he's going to get you extra possessions. And when you have a coach who pounds home the idea of winning the possession game, guys like Josh Hart are going to be a staple because he helps with that so much.
Yeah, and he keeps those stats. Like he keeps sprays, he keeps spray stats, verticality stats, 50-50 ball stats. Like he actually keeps those stats. Yeah, I agree with you. I thought Hart was Hart. Like somebody said, you got to take the good with the bad. What was that? That there was an old was it Three's Company?
Facts of life. You take the good, you take the bad. You take them both, and there you go.
Right. If you know, you know. So Yabu, Ajay and I was texting, and he didn't like Yabu last night, and I was kind of surprised because I thought Yabu he didn't shoot well last night. Do not get me wrong. He was like, what was Yabu last night?
1 for 7 or something like that.
Yeah, he was 2 for 7, took 5 3-pointers, did not make one. He had 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block in 17 minutes, and had the highest plus minus on the team for those that are into plus minus, and he looked like he's lost weight. Females, we look at these things. You got males, y'all might not have noticed, but either he got a bigger uniform or he's lost some weight because the uniform is a little looser now, But he looks like he's slimmed down a little bit. And I thought defensively, now listen, he's not somebody that you're going to isolate, put him on an island, and expect that he's going to keep the guy in front of him. That's just not going to happen. But I thought he was really good in terms of just getting to his spots, being where he was supposed to be, putting in the effort, the block shots. He didn't look like a fish out of water last night. The looks that he took were good looks. One shot just grazed the rim. I don't know what that was, but I thought he took the shots that that was given to him within the flow of the game. His minutes are up some. Part of that may be, again, OG Anunoby's injury, so you got to spread those points around. Do you think he's slowly starting to fit in, or do you think that this guy ain't it? The Knicks, ever so often, a signing just doesn't go well, and this might be one of them. Thoughts on Yabu last night and overall?
No, I think Yabu the Hutt is rounding into shape, man. I've never been a huge fan, but he's played better defensively than I thought he was capable. So I'm actually not as down on him as Ajay is. And it's Ajay's guy. It's like we're switching spots, trading places here.
Right.
I still don't think he's a great player, not even necessarily a great fit for this team, but I think he's getting back into basketball shape, and I think he's more of the player. Maybe not basketball shape may not be the right term for it, but I think that personally, I think he bulked up thinking that he was going to be playing more minutes at the 5, and I think in bulking up, he kind of. And we saw the same thing with Mitchell Robinson. It makes him too slow and he can't do the things that he wants to do. And sometimes when you add that extra mass and that extra strength, it throws off your shot too, because now you don't have the same touch, as you did when you were smaller and didn't quite have that strength. So that sometimes takes a little bit of figuring out to do too. But he's really struggled from the field as a Knick. I think he's 32% shooting overall and about the same from 2-point and 3-point territory. And that's really difficult to have when you have a guy who's not known for his defense and his shot blocking, although he has been better in those areas. But if he's gonna really long-term help this team, he's got to be able to knock down shots. And so he and Towns need to start drinking from a different water fountain or something, because they're kind of going through the same thing right now as far as their field goal percentage.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else before we get to the chat? We talked about the shooting wasn't good. The bench, the Knicks were outscored, off the bench last night. This 64 bench points. But again, when you're injured and everybody is equal, you just keep throwing guys, throwing guys out there,
Well, and Najee Marshall and D'Angelo Russell were both, they love torturing the Knicks. I mean, that was their bench, right? They played both legs. I think Russell had like 24 points in 22 minutes or something.
He led them in scoring, if I'm not.
He was outrageously good, and he always is against us, and then against the rest of the league, he's below average Joe. But there you go. But I do want to mention one more thing before that I think we would be remiss in not mentioning, and that's the play of Mikal Bridges.
Oh yeah.
Mikal Bridges is low key playing at an all-star level this year. His stocks are the highest they've ever been in his career. And it really feels like Mike Brown is, of all the players, Mike Brown is utilizing him better than anybody. He's shooting 50, 40, 77 from the slash line. But more importantly, his assists are way up. His blocks are up. His steals are up from his career. Now, I don't know if that's sustainable. I don't know if that's going to last or not, but it almost is as if we're not relying on him to be the primary point of attack defender as much. And it's allowing him to drop back and play the passing lanes more and be a help defender more. And I think that's where those blocked shots are coming from, which seems to be the right way to utilize his defensive skill set, as opposed to trying to expect him to be a lockdown guy on a water bug guard. I don't think that's in his skill set. But for what it's worth, I don't know that our defense has been good, but I think that the way that we utilize Bridges so far has been excellent. And to me, he's been playing at an all-star level, even if, I know getting to the all-star game is a lot about how many points you're scoring. And if you look at, just his points per game average, you're like, this guy's not an all-star. But if you look at his overall game impact on both sides of the floor, I don't think he gets enough shots, frankly. I think, and maybe it's one of those cases where he's shooting well because he's getting the right amount of shots. I can't be a hypocrite there. It's right. What I said before. So that may be part of it, but he's taking good shots. He's making them. He's doing it on both ends of the floor. He made some key defensive stops for us yesterday, and he has all season. I mean, it's steals, blocks, the whole game. He's really, as Ron likes to say, he's the ancillary stat guy. He's been filling up the box sheet every night. And his playmaking has been good as I think he had 6 assists last night. Is that right?
I was going to say, to your point, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, just 2 turnovers. And I agree. -3 for the plus minus group. But to your point, I do think he should get more shots. But this is what Mikal is, a glue guy in a different sort of way. He's not like, you usually when you think of glue guys, you just think of these utility guys who not really skilled. They can't really shoot, but they do everything else. He's a glue guy in another way, secondary ball handler, secondary playmaker. If I'm open for the three, I'll take it. If I can get in the lane and hit a pull up, I'll do that. If it comes to me, it comes to me. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like he doesn't push the issue. He's just out there doing everything else. Steals, blocks, assists. His rebounds are up as well. At least last night he had 5. I'm pretty sure they're up on the season. I know his assists are up,
almost across the board. His numbers are up. I mean,
so he's like a premier glue guy. So, so to speak, on this particular team that has a Cat and a Brunson, right? On any other team, he probably would be, the number.
Again, I think ideal role. We're talking about I think that's where you want a player like Mikal Bridges, right? I think that's and I think that he could be the 3rd best player on a championship team, right? What I mean? If he's playing the way that he's playing, and we get Brunson's field goal percentage is down too. Let's not forget that. We've been harping on Cat not shooting the ball well, and he hasn't had the massive struggles compared to his career numbers that Towns has, but he hasn't been his normal self as far as field goal percentage either. So if those guys both progress to the mean as to their career numbers as far as shooting percentages go, and McCall continues the way he is, man, the ceiling for this team is very high.
It is really high. And OG coming back, and then the way Shamet and Clarkson is coming along. I mean, we know Deuce was here last year, but the way Shamet and Clarkson is coming along, it's a work in progress. So I wrote on my notes, I wonder if the fan base is looking at this team, particularly 0-4 on the road. We struggle against Dallas. I wonder if the fan base is saying this is part of the process. Or if the fan base is saying, I don't know about this team. I'm not quite sure this is a championship contending team. What do you say, family? To me, it's part of the process. They're a contending team. This is just part of the process.
Oh, and remember, the Eastern Conference has been outstanding. Milwaukee is in 11th place at 8-7.
But look at my team, Sherwin. You weren't the only one touting the Raptors. You weren't the only one touting the Raptors when we did the Eastern Conference, the Eastern Conference rankings.
The Knicks North with Barrett and Quick. Well, Quick's finally healthy. I think that's part of it for them.
And Ingram.
And Ingram is there and healthy. And healthy. So, but I think a healthy Emmanuel Quickley is a very good basketball player, and he just wasn't the last, since the trade, really. He's had all kinds of maladies and injuries. That team shares the ball extremely well. They've got a lot of high IQ players. They're just doing a good job right now. And, and you wonder, sometimes you get on a hot streak and then you fall back down to earth, or are they Cleveland never did fall back down to earth, right? Detroit's won 11 in a row, I think Andrew just said. And so is that who they are? Are they the dominant force in the Eastern Conference? Or are they just on a roll right now and then they fall back down to earth, kind of like the Bulls and the Sixers, came out like gangbusters and now they're back to the middle of the pack. Not that they're playing poorly. They're just, kind of falling back down to earth, because you go through these highs and lows through a season. That's kind of what the regular season is. It's very few teams, because look, even if you win 50 games, that means you lose 30, right? So that you're going to have these times and these ebbs and these flows, and that's fine. So, 9-5 is a good place to be at. I think we have a big challenge ahead of us on Saturday. Going into Orlando, although I did read that we may not have to deal with Wagner or Banchero, which would be nice, but didn't avail us much against Dallas, that half their roster was, in street
right.
clothes.
No.
So you can't.
Exactly.
We just got to take care of business either way. But again, stack wins. That's the important thing. Keep stacking wins. Keep working hard. Last night was not my favorite performance by any stretch of the imagination. It was definitely a gouge your eyes out kind of a game, especially the final minute of the fourth quarter. The AED was charged up and ready to go. The wife had the paddles in her hands for me, just in case, the heart attack came on at that moment. But, I think this team is going to be okay. I think there's a lot of context to why they're struggling right now. A part of it is the new system. And I think that I underestimated how long it would take to kind of learn Mike Brown's system. And there have been some hiccups and some, speed bumps, if you will, along the way. And I think those are probably going to continue. But would you rather have those things to correct with a win or with if we had lost that game, and we've lost those games in the past to Dallas, in fact. And so, so take every win that you can get, cherish, treasure them all. It looks like a 20-point blowout in the wins on the standings, loss column. It doesn't matter. So you find a way to win any way you can, and you keep moving forward.
Yeah. Let's get to the chat. Shout out to Paris Duggar. Red flags. Cat's intensity game to game. Mitch is playing on one leg. Small guys are scoring at the rim on him. Rotation is too short this early. Deuce, thumbs down. Okay. All right. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Appreciate you, Paris, rocking with us. Leon, Mitch, please tell me you are not happy how this team looks and plays. I wasn't happy with how they looked and played last night, but overall, I am encouraged by this team, and I think it's only going to get better. Shout out to Wonder Woman. We appreciate you. Shout out to Darlene Bryant. Appreciate you as well. That was a cardiac game last night, particularly in the last few minutes. Oh, boy. JJ, maybe Cat is struggling because he keeps taking threes from 5 feet behind the line. I mean, it may help his percentage if he moves in some. But if you ask him, he'll probably say, that's my range.
It's like, I can step back a foot further if you want me to.
Okay. Lee Escobedo as well. Watching Josh Hart live and direct gave me a direct appreciation for everything he does. He ISOs in the opposite side of the spectrum as Russell and how he impacts winning.
Yeah. Wow, that's a neat. Wow, I'm gonna have to chew on that for a minute. He's saying he's the anti-Russell Westbrook. That's a fascinating take, Lee. I'm gonna have to chew on that, and maybe we can discuss that on the 8 o'clock show, 9 o'clock show.
Right.
8 o'clock. I always confuse these things.
Ajay, shout out to him. Not down on Cat. Definitely. East Blue Drew, I'm down on Cat fouling.
Well, I'm always down on Cat fouling, but that's part of who he is too. I'm not sure that's Zebra don't change his stripes on that. He's been a foul-prone player his whole career.
Yeah, for sure. Sherman, I want a more complete player than Cat. You know what, Sherman? I'm gonna challenge you a little bit. When Mitch was starting, did you want a more complete player than Mitch? Mitch does what Mitch does. Cat does what Cat does. They're incomplete players in terms of offense, defense. So when Mitch was starting, did you want a more complete player than Mitch? I did. But did you? So, I mean, Mitch is Mitch. Cat is Cat. You know what you're going to get from both of them, and both of them do what they do at a very high level. Cat just happens to be struggling right now.
And I don't think they really complement each other that well. I'm not crazy about their minutes on the floor together. Like I think that I don't know what it is, but the rebounding I get, but I just offensively in a flow, it just doesn't seem like. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the plus minus data suggests otherwise, but from the eye test, it just seems like when those two, the double big lineup just doesn't seem to be our best one. Sorry, JJ, I know you cringe every time we play three guards, but it seems to be the alignment that suits this group the best, and I think in a lot of ways it suits modern NBA. Philosophy best. I think that the game is going smaller for the most part, and it's a lot more about getting up 3-point attempts and shooting from the perimeter, and from that standpoint, Mike Brown is trying to install a modern NBA offense, if you will. It hasn't always looked that way, and this, I think, may be the first game all year that we've won where we didn't shoot like 35% from three. That's been kind of the watermark for us, is to shoot well from three, but we didn't last night, and we didn't shoot the ball well for the free throw line either, and we still got to win, so we take those.
Yeah, we do. East Blue Drew, I love JB, but our ball movement just stopped. Okay. Size 9, Cat is still doing what I like best, rebounding. You're gonna need a little bit more than that. I mean, I think that's great that's been consistent.
But I do think that has to factor into his defense a little bit too. Like, I think, we, a lot of times, Enes Kanter being the perfect example, I always, dogged him for his terrible defense, but he also got, a dozen rebounds a game, or maybe not that many, but he was double-digit rebounder. And so that's how you end the defensive possession, right? If you do everything else right, but you don't get the rebound, then you're still playing defense, and it's not good defense. Like, even if you're all up in everybody's face and all the other principles are right, you have to close out the possession by getting the rebound. And Towns is remarkable about that. I mean, last 2 years, I think he's at 12.3 boards per game, which is quite a bit. I mean, and he's easily our best defensive rebounder, in my opinion, because, Mitch is more famous for getting on the offensive glass. I think that's his primary skill. He's not terrible on the defensive boards, but he's not outstanding either.
Yeah, the last 2 games, though, he's had more defensive boards than offensive boards. I tend to try. I mean, I like second possessions, but I tend to value defensive, rebounds, more. But I mean, it doesn't matter as long as the team is getting them, and the Knicks are number 1 in their top 5 in both defensive and offensive rebounding percentage, right? So really, really good rebounding team. So it's not like the offensive rebounds is at, and we're not paying attention on the defensive rebound. We're doing both. Size 9, Shamit is better than Hart 2. Okay, Paris Duggar, Shamit is light years better than Deuce. And size 9, I think Shamit and Deuce about equal. Yeah. Okay. Ajay said Shamit drove Brogdon into retirement.
Maybe so. Is he going to drive Yabusele there too? Because we could really use the extra roster spot right now.
Yeah. Right. Well, for who though? I don't love Hart, but I always give props when due. He's been very solid lately on both ends of the court. Not perfect, but solid on both ends of the court. Size 9 disagrees. Hart can't stop nothing. Nobody is stopping anything one-on-one. You just try to do as best you can to keep them in front. I think Shamit does a great job of that.
Yeah, he really stays on his game. He's a bulldog. That's the only way I can describe this. He's a bulldog. Like, he's gonna get right up. He's gonna have that nose pointed right in your chest, like 100%.
Hands back. He's not fouling, and he's moving. Like, that's textbook, right? When you're practicing defense, hands back. Just move your feet.
And he gets around screens incredibly well. Like, he really moves his feet well. And I think he and Bridges are a good combination in that way, because that allows Shamit to be the point of attack guy and give bridges a more traditional role for him. I think that's what he did in Phoenix, because that's when he was Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and he's certainly, with his stocks, got to be among the league leaders in those categories right now. So he's really been terrific defensively, and Shamet has something to do with that. Yeah.
And the thing about Shamet, when he gets picked off, he just works to get back into the play. Yeah, it really surprised me. I tell you, I did not think he would figure into the rotation as much as he has. Paris Duggar, why do we keep saying a championship? Because we are. This is a championship contending team. Now, look at the other teams around the Eastern Conference. The Knicks are just as good as any of them. Are there some things we need to shore up? Absolutely. Is there some roster tinkles I would like to see? Yes. But as it stands right now, this is a championship contending team.
Yeah. Contending being the key word. That doesn't mean that we're waltzing to the title or anything.
Right.
We were 6 games away from a title last year, and we have pretty much the same crew. So to say that all of a sudden we're just like a play-in team, I think is a little bit disingenuous. And again, the Eastern Conference is full of flawed teams, from top-seeded Detroit, who's on fire right now, to 11-seeded Milwaukee, who's at 8-7. So, we're what top 3, top 4 right now. A half game behind Toronto, of all things. I don't think anybody except for Queen and Sherwin expected that, but we're right in the mix, and that's all you want to be. Just keep stacking wins, stay in the mix. Remember, we were 5-6 last year, and we won 50 games. We're 9-5 now. That means that we're on a better pace automatically than last year, because we had our 6th loss after 11 games. We've played 14, and we haven't gotten our 6th loss yet. So let's not push the panic button, jump off the bridge, whatever analogy, just hang with this team, and I think that it'll be worth the investment, because there's a lot of things there to like, and we're 9-5, and we haven't played close to our best basketball yet. So I think there's a lot to be encouraged about.
For sure. Latoria B, this will be a season of ebbs and flows. This team will be just fine, people. It's a process. Sis always trying to keep us focused and locked in.
Amen.
I appreciate that. King Ribby, we can't compare them both. What the hell? It was a straight question, and it's not turned into Mitch hate. So was Paris saying that he prefers complete players in reference to Cat? Was that hate about Cat? No, it wasn't hate about Cat. He prefers complete players. It's not Mitch hate. He's a big Mitchell Robinson fan, and Mitchell Robinson is not a complete player.
He's almost the anti-Towns, right? Because I'm
just pointing out the inconsistency. It's not really about Mitch per se. It's about the inconsistency of liking complete players, but yet you're going to give one player who's not a complete player the business every single time we go live. But another player who's a favorite of yours because maybe you prioritize defense, you don't have
somehow take Cat's offense and combine it with Mitch's defense and put it into one player. That would be something.
Right. Exactly. So King Ribby is not hate. I'm just pointing out the inconsistency. All right. Any last words, Geoff? I'm 2 minutes late from returning from my lunch break.
You better get back. We'll see y'all tonight at 9:00 Eastern, right?
Yes.
The weekly show. So we'll pick it back up then. Thank you all very much.
Appreciate you guys, fam. Shout out to the replay gang and the silent listeners as well.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Dope Soul.
Where you at?
Dope Soul.